The Israeli cabinet approved President Benjamin Netanyahu's plan to control of Gaza City.
But there was strong opposition to that takeover. Joining us now, Benjamin Radd, professor of political science and global studies at UCLA. Benjamin, good to have you back with us.
Good morning.
Good morning. Okay, so what are the immediate implications of Israel taking over Gaza? Of course, this is not the first time we've heard Netanyahu said that he is ready to defeat Hamas.
Well, there's domestic constraints and international concerns. On the domestic part, you now have a country that has to remobilize its forces, its reserves that are already exhausted and drained, a country that is fatigued from almost 2 years of war, and now having to be responsible for millions of Palestinians living in Gaza, and essentially policing and helping to reconstruct, or at least in some part, rebuild what's left. So there's that challenge. And then there's the international part, which is, we've seen these images coming out of Gaza with Israel, with the food crisis, the humanitarian crisis, the starvation. And Israel has to fulfill, its obligations to care for these Palestinian civilians, give them the food, medicine, resources they need. The question is, can it do that if it's now going to fully occupy and take responsibility for all the territory?
Yeah, and Benjamin, another big question, of course, is what role is the United States or other allies playing in this latest development?
Well, we've seen President Trump signal that he would be interested in having the U.S. play an important role in assisting with Gaza. But again, all this remains to be seen. Does the international community, will they have access to the civilian parts where most of these residents are now have been relocated to? There's a small area, a few of them, where Israel believes that the remnants of Hamas's leadership is hiding, along with the hostages they still have, both dead and alive. And the international community needs to be able to access the civilian areas while not getting in the way or not getting hit accidentally by Israel or by Hamas as they continue to fight. So those are some of the challenges the international community will have as this goes forward.
Now, you've mentioned what people are going through who live in Gaza, the starvation, the just deplorable conditions. Some say, though, this could provide a helpful move in that in the end, if it is successful, then neither Hamas nor Israel would control Gaza. Could this in any way be more helpful to the people in Gaza?
Well, it can if there's a time frame on this. I mean, so far the prime minister has not indicated how long this will last. If he comes out and says, okay, 3 months, maybe 6-month operation, and then after that point, Israel will hand it off to an international coalition, maybe made up of regional Arab states that are friendly to Israel, and that could assist with the Palestinian cause and help them rebuild without having Hamas be a part of that. Absolutely, that would be a win-win. But again, we don't have details, and that's what the prime minister's statements and plan has been lacking so far. No indication that how long this will last, how the handover will take place, and who power will be given to once Israel decides that the mission is finished.
You're right. Not enough details. So much left we have answers to. Benjamin Radd, thank you so much for joining us with your insight this morning.